Britain never invaded Alaska. It didn't have to. By 1866, it was already surrounding it, and St. Petersburg had one window, one moment, one move left before the most valuable frontier on the Pacific coastline slipped permanently into British hands. Russia didn't hesitate. It ran. To understand what Russia did in 1867, you have to go back to 1856, the Crimean War. And it was catastrophic for Russia. Not just in lives, not just in territory, in something far more dangerous: confidence. Because what the Crimean War proved beyond any doubt was that Britain could project its naval power almost anywhere on the planet. The Black Sea, the Baltic, and yes, the North Pacific. St. Petersburg looked at Alaska after that war and saw something terrifying. Not a colony, a liability. 800,000 square miles of coastline, completely indefensible, sitting at the edge of a Pacific Ocean that Britain was quietly making its own. Now, let's talk about what Britain was actually doing in the Pacific at this moment, because this is the part that gets left out of every classroom version of this story. By the mid-1860s, Britain controlled Canada directly to Alaska's east. It had deep commercial interests in the Pacific Northwest. Its navy had already demonstrated twice that it could reach Russian waters whenever it chose. And Alaska? Alaska was wide open. No meaningful Russian military presence, no naval defense worth the name, just land. Enormous, exposed, strategically priceless land, sitting there like an unlocked door on Russia's most vulnerable frontier. St. Petersburg didn't need a spy to tell them what came next. They could read a map. So here is the decision Russia actually made. And I want you to feel how cold and precise this thinking was. Russia could not defend Alaska against Britain. Russia could not afford to defend Alaska against Britain, not after the Crimean War had hollowed out the imperial treasury. But Russia could do something far more elegant. It could put Alaska somewhere Britain couldn't touch it. America and Britain were not friends in 1867. The Civil War had just ended, and Britain had been caught quietly favoring the Confederacy. American resentment toward Britain was real. It was raw, and it was politically powerful. So Russia went to Washington, not because America was the obvious buyer, but because a US-controlled Alaska was the one outcome that guaranteed Britain would never get it. America would never allow British expansion onto the North American continent, not after everything. This wasn't a sale. This was Russia using American pride as a wall and placing Alaska safely behind it. Of course, Congress didn't exactly leap at the opportunity. Half of Washington thought Seward had lost his mind. A frozen wilderness above Canada for $7 million? The newspapers called it every name imaginable. But, and this is where it gets even more interesting, Russia's envoy, Eduard de Stoeckl, didn't just lobby Congress. He paid Congress. Newspaper editors, influential voices, key votes. The money moved quietly, because it had to. Because if this deal collapsed, the alternative wasn't that Alaska stayed Russian. The alternative was that Alaska eventually became British. And that, for both Washington and St. Petersburg, was completely unacceptable. The history books call this Seward's folly. But look at that map. Alaska sits between Russia and the open Pacific. It blocks British Canada from the north. It gives the United States a strategic anchor above an entire ocean.